Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 132 of the Civil Gore podcast. I am your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we have an interesting themed show today. Our movie is going to be, as you're listening to this, you've just been hopefully celebrating President's Week. And so we decided to do a loose presidential themed movie, I guess.
Is it President's Week now? Not just a day? Have they
expanded
it?
It's the week they call the week. It's really, there's only President's Day, but school holidays get off, and they consider this President's Week.
Yeah, the kids are out Friday, so I guess you're right.
Yeah. So there's a fit like around here, like schools are out all week. So
really,
yeah, this is a February break. It's basically President's Week break. So
slackers, man. We only get a day down here.
Yeah, but wait, do you have? I wonder if you must have a shorter schedule or another week off somewhere, right?
Yeah, we got spring break. That's the only other break. Well, they do get an extra week off at Christmas, too, though.
Oh, right. You get 2 weeks off. Yeah, so that's the difference,
Yeah, we got a good show today, and I think you guys are going to be surprised at this movie and what we thought about it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a while, I would suggest revisiting it. But we'll get to that right after our first chop. All right, Brian, so I've got 2 more movies left on my 40 Years of Terror. I was going to try to knock them both out this week, but I didn't get a chance to quite finish the last one on the list. So I decided to go with 1985, and I was looking for a movie kind of that, obviously I'm looking for one I haven't seen before because that's the whole point of the project, but I was kind of looking for one that I didn't see on a lot of lists, and I went for a deep dive here, and I found one. Boy, did I find one. This is called Cut and Run from 1985.
Heard of this?
Yes, this is an Italian film. It was released under the name, I believe it was named Inferno or something like that. Not to be confused with, I think there's a Argento film maybe named Inferno or something like that. But it's a movie that tries to kind of capitalize off of the whole cannibal Holocaust, cannibal ferox craze. It kind of has that feel to it. But it's not done in a documentary style. Instead, it's basically about... I'm going to butcher what this movie's about because I could make heads or tails of it. But apparently this guy and woman are reporting on some clash between drug cartels and a cannibalistic tribe headed by this military officer. And so they get kind of trapped up in this battle between these two, and there's another contingent of people that are looking for them. And it's basically an excuse to show a lot of boobs, native boobs and otherwise, and some weird, like, gory kills and stuff. Apparently there was an unrated release of this, and then there was like a tamer that they actually shot 2 versions. They shot the tamer kills for the American release, and then they shot the gruesome ones for the unrated. I don't really know which version I saw. The kills, there were some good kills in it, but then it was weird because you have this movie that kind of plays out like this action-y, I don't know, drug cartel thriller, but then you'd have these weird sequences where like bodies would appear like in Friday the 13th, like swinging from trees, or like there's these gore reveals like in a slasher film. It was really bizarre.
Weird. And well, it's funny too because I think did you watch it on Prime?
Yes, I did watch it on Prime.
So you probably saw the cut version because I know Amazon tends to do that. However, sometimes if you buy like the paid version of it, there's that extra like paid version of Prime you can get where they sometimes release the full cut. So I'm wondering if you can actually see it if you do that special like Prime. What's the other one? It's like there's Prime, but there's like Prime something where it's like you get more stuff.
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I think if you buy the full Prime, I read it for one movie where they saw it. It was like if you buy the Prime and Prime Music, there's like an extra thing, and you get more versions. But I don't know. I could be wrong on that, or I'm misdescribing it. But yeah, but usually Prime tends to like do like, do weird cuts of stuff from what I heard.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if this was a cut version. Although it was longer on Prime than what I had seen listed.
Oh, so maybe you did get the full version.
Maybe I did, because I saw like listed as a 77-minute. This was definitely way over an hour and a half. So I don't know. You guys have to do a little more research into that.
Yeah. It has Billy Ames, I see.
Yeah, it's also got Michael Berryman, who you know from The Hills Have Eyes, and he plays one of the weird cannibal killers.
Oh, and Eric LaSalle.
But I will say something about this movie. If you took away every scene of a plane or helicopter flying over jungle, this movie would probably be about 27 minutes long.
Oh my God.
It is ridiculous how many shots of planes and helicopters going over jungle are in this movie. It's not a good movie by any means. I don't even know if I'd recommend it. It's really bizarre. You feel like it wants to be one of these cannibal movies, like with the native tribes and stuff, and it has that same gritty feel. Even though it's 85, it still feels low budget and kind of gritty because it's Italian made and everything. So it kind of feels realistic in a way. But I don't know. It's like tries to straddle two different genres that I don't think actually blend together very well.
Oh my! Well, I'm going to give you something. Here's something we rarely ever do on Civil Gore is when we do one of Tim's project, or it's one of the movies we kind of mention in the first chapter just casually. We don't really do trivia for it, but while I was just looking up this movie while you were talking about it, I did find one interesting piece of trivia here. It says this movie was based on an unmade Wes Craven script called Marimba.
Yes.
And it says, the story goes that after financing for that film fell through, the producers refused to give Craven his script back, and this film was what was resulted.
That's actually one reason I watched this, because I did read that piece of trivia, and I was like, "Ooh, I got to see this," because it has a Wes Craven connection. But I don't know, man. If you're a Wes Craven completist to the point that you have to watch scripts he might have done at one point, if he had the chance, I guess you can go for this one. I don't know. This one kind of was over my head or under my head. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I may have to check this out now. You've piqued my interest.
Like most of the time when I see really bad movies, Brian's like, I got to see it now.
I know. I'm like a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, apparently.
But
all right, but let's get to some other fun stuff. Brian, your Oculus Quest arrived.
Yes, and so I mean, I remember I had tried it. My brother-in-law had it, so I was already, it wasn't like I was, freshly blown away by it, right, because I had experienced it. But now that I own my own, and I was really excited to have it, I really got to play around with some of the other features to it. So, of course, mine I got the bundle Tim got, where it comes with Vader Unleashed. Vader Immortal. I got two games mixed up: Force Unleashed and Vader Immortal, which was, of course, it's like you get all 3 volumes for free, which is a $30 value, which is actually, when you think about it, a steal, because some of these Quest games are pretty expensive.
Yes, they are.
So, I mean, to get a game free, let alone the 3 volumes of it, is great. And I had already pre-purchased while it was on sale The Exorcist, because I've heard amazing things about that. So that was another game that I had. It comes with a lot of demos on there.
Yeah.
Which is great, and I was worried about that briefly, of only having 64 gig on there, but with all that stuff on there, I still have more than half of it empty.
Yeah, the games are fairly small. I mean, you don't really...
It really is, which astounds me when you think of what it needs to pull off.
Yeah.
But then again, if you notice, most games are very... the one thing I see a lot of people say, if you play through a game, it's traditionally short by video game standards.
Yeah.
So that could be it. But then again, I don't know about you, but I know I can only, I saw the warnings are like, don't play for more than this. And I'm like, oh, give me a break. But I kind of see it now, because after a while, the headset gets a little heavy on your head. Yeah. And I actually was getting nauseous. I decided to watch, and I am not someone that gets seasick at all, but I started to get nauseous. I watched this YouTube 360 video where I was on a fishing boat, and it was the guys are going, "Hey, you ready? Let's go!" And then he like moved the boat, and the boat's like going up and down, and I was like, "Oh!" And I got a little queasy, I have to say. And I don't know if it's because I was standing up and I had played it already for about 45 minutes. Some other stuff, but yeah. But one of the things that stood out to me is I was fooling around with that Next VR that you had told me about, Tim.
Yeah.
Which, for those who haven't listened or heard or know what this is, it's basically like a video service where you can get, if you're a NBA fan and you have the NBA package, it's like worth its weight in gold because you can watch live games, through VR, which has got to be astounding. One of the things I tried was WWE had just recently signed a deal with Next VR. So I watched some of the WWE matches, and that is crazy. Now, I will notice something. I think they do a little bit of editing trickery here. One, you can tell when the wrestler is right up in your face that they're a little smaller than they should be. So I think, obviously there's a zoom factor that they've zoomed in on the camera, which is fine because it's you don't really notice it unless you're really looking for it. And I just happened to, I was really studying it, the whole thing. And then I noticed the crowd doesn't react necessarily to what's going on in the match as well as it should. So I wonder if the crowd is kind of added in later digitally. I'm not sure, because I was watching one of the women's, because when I was back into wrestler, I was a big Trish Stratus fan, and so there was I guess when she returned at SummerSlam for a match with Charlotte Flair, I watched that just to see what that was like. And there was a lot of excitement going on, but the crowd wasn't really reacting. And I know that's not the case when, especially with Trish Stratus, who's really popular. They were not reacting properly. So I don't know if there's some kind of superimposed crowd thing they do. Maybe just because for rights issues or something. I don't know. What I want to look into that more, but still, nevertheless, I'm not trying to bash this thing. I'm saying I wanted to say how amazing it is, because literally they have you at ringside, and they have you at one point up in the rafters, which gives that effect. If you're afraid of heights, you're gonna get a little freaked out there if you kind of thing. And then there's and then when there's one view of the camera where it's literally on one of the turnbuckles, so when a wrestler gets slammed into it, it literally goes right in your face.
Yeah, I did a boxing one like that, and you were right on the ropes.
Right, so it's amazing.
It felt like you were in the ring with those guys. It was so cool. Now, did you get a chance to try the paranormal show?
I did. I only watched a little bit of it just to get it, because at that point I was kind of going through all this stuff to try and do that. But that really was amazing. And it's what's neat is, so those don't have full 360 immersion, I noticed. But what it does is it actually adds a graphic behind you. So at least if you do turn around, you get something. But it's more of like a 180 panoramic. Yeah. But it still gives that 3D effect that you're in there with these guys that's doing the ghost hunting.
Yeah, I just thought that was so cool, because you feel like you're actually there, like at the asylum or whatever they're investigating. Yeah. And it's full 3D, so you feel like you're sitting in that room with these guys. I don't know. I just thought that was super, super cool.
Yeah, but did you actually turn around? You see this long, creepy hallway, in one of the things. And, I think it was the Asylum one, where it's I
have noticed, when sometimes I kind of like the 180 better, because they're not doing 360, they can do more definition on the 180 part.
Right.
So I've noticed sometimes the 180 videos are actually clearer than the 360, because they're not having to do all of it.
That's absolutely true, because there's much more of a 3D effect that, when I was watching that boat one, I was full 360. Literally, if I turned around on I watched the YouTube VR, I was I could see the back of the boat, and it was cool, but the image is not it wasn't as high def as that paranormal thing, where it was you literally felt like the guy was standing there and he's talking to you. It's so realistic. So of course, one of the things I wanted to try too is I wanted to try the Exorcist game. Have you tried that yet, Tim?
I haven't. I actually did not end up buying it back when it went on sale, and I missed the sale on it.
Did you get? I got a $5 coupon today. They randomly sent me for store credit. So check your email. Maybe they sent you one too. They maybe just sending it to people.
So check, so now I'm waiting for it to go on sale again so I can get it. So I'm kind of just holding off. This
game, oh my god! So this is really, really good. There's some I will say there's some good Tim jump scares in it.
God.
And this one, it's really just impressive the way things work. It's so funny. Like at first, and it's kind of like the way that the controller like has that like little vibration kind of thing, and the way the immersion is. So you start off literally in this office, and there's like coffee cups on the table and stuff, and it's hilarious how if you just move your controller hand, you'll literally like knock over a cup of coffee. It's empty, but it just knocks it off. So I spent the first 5 minutes just picking up the cups of coffee I knocked and throwing them in the garbage.
Worst Exorcist movie ever.
Yeah. Well, until I realized I was supposed to leave, I wasn't quite sure what I was doing at first. But anyway, so then there's a lot of like creep factors, and there's like the sound, which I've heard people say, oh, you really want to get headsets, but I got news for you: the in-headset sound that's already there is pretty good. It felt like there were people like talking like maybe like 10 feet behind me, to the point of where I thought Julie had said something, because she was sitting down and I was kind of in my little zone, because that guardian system you have to make. I had a very limited spot I could do this in that had enough space.
No, correction. Julie was sitting down silently laughing as she watched you playing VR and moving stuff around. Like I do with the kids when they're playing it. Like I'm just sitting there laughing my butt off.
Oh, yeah. No, she was hilarious. Well, especially when I was doing the Creed demo, because I don't know if you tried that Creed.
Yeah, that was fun where you're boxing. Yeah.
Yeah, but the best is when you get knocked out, and to walk back to the ring, you have to do that thing with you wave your arms. And Julie I just hear her laughing. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "That's what it told me to do to get back in the ring." But yeah, overall, I don't know. I kind of wish that the game overall was a little bit, the boxing was a little bit better. It was hard to kind of figure out. The controls were a little awkward, like where you have to do that thing where you lean back and you put your hands up.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel as intuitive as some of the other stuff. But yeah, the Exorcist game is definitely, I've heard nothing but good things, and it's just the visuals and the whole storyline seem to be really good, and the creep factor is turned up a lot. Like if I've heard people say, oh, it's like, I can't handle it because the horror's done. But this one is really well done. I mean, there's, like just some of the things you have to do, and the way you use the controllers, and it's just really well done. Like you really get a feel that you're like investigating something, like involving the Exorcist storyline. So it's really cool. It's a game that, Tim, you must own. And there's some good ones coming out. Like in March, there's that Alice in Wonderland, like which I read is like a prequel to Alice in Wonderland, basically.
Yeah. There's some other horror games out there, and I don't know how good they all are, but there's a bunch of other horror games on there. And then there's also the ones I probably mentioned before when I got mine, was like you can go out and watch those promo trailers they did for like Child's Play and It Chapter 2, and then basically it's almost like an immersive theatrical trailer in a way, but it's not really showing stuff from the movie. It's just basically putting you in the situation with the villains. Like for instance, the Child's Play, when you're in this big department store, and it's not something you can control, you're just watching it. But it feels like you're in this big department store, and then all of a sudden all the lights go off, and you hear Chucky running around you, and so it's kind of scary. There's one with the It where you're going through the funhouse mirrors from It.
And where do you get that one again? Where's that? Like
you can just go to YouTube and look them up.
Okay, it's on there.
Yeah, just look up YouTube. The YouTube app inside of Oculus Quest actually features VR stuff.
I saw that. It kind of automatically gives you the 360.
Yeah, so you can go there and look for horror. So I think there's another way to get to that stuff too, but I'll have to look it up and see how you do it. But those are kind of neat to play around with. Not all of them are great quality, but they're still fun.
Yeah, did you see there's actually a game, literally, it tells you it's not a game, but basically it's just a collection of jump scares. I'm like, oh my God, that's the ultimate Tim game.
No.
I know, you got to play. Well, I'll tell you one thing, though. This quest has made me now on the no pun intended or pun intended, quest to actually, by the time we do the Halloween Horror Nights this year, to own one of those GoPro, the 360 GoPros.
Yeah.
So we could be maybe then people that have the quest could get like Civil Gore in like in the world of Civil Gore. Cool. You'll get like Tim and I in your room and behind you and on the side of you, and I know, right? It's like
I My
it'd be fun.
probability for Halloween Horror Nights is going up day by day. Like it's steadily going up because like I've been using like that Capital program to save money. Like it rounds all your dollars up.
Oh, nice.
So I've literally got a universal account. And so basically anytime we use our debit card, it rounds it up to the nearest dollar and throws that change into this account. I think we've got over $1,000 already.
Oh my
saved
God.
up in that from last year. So like that's like, a half or a third of our trip paid for right off the bat.
So do you keep buying like 79-cent items just to get the round up?
I don't even think about it anymore. So I've had it so long, I don't even think about it. And it just, and like one day I was just sitting there going, I wonder how much is in our account. And I looked, it was like over $1,000. I was like, oh my God, like
wow.
Halloween Horror Nights, here we come. Here we go.
Nice. And I think we'll be with the way it's working out, I think based off of and the way Costa Radio is doing their meetup that week, I think, and I was talking to Julie about this, so I was thinking basically we'd be doing Horror Nights and Universal on Wednesday and Thursday, which are the cheaper nights anyway. Mm-hmm. So to get a package might be just generally cheaper than it was last year for last time we went.
And less crowded probably. Because
definitely less crowded.
So,
I mean, I know of course we'll be doing the that RIP tour, but it looks like they're going to try, but that, you know what, at some level, it's like that's with what you're spending to buy at least one night of the tour to guarantee it. It's worth it. And we had such a great time on that.
Well,
that
I like
RIP
the idea
tour.
of doing I do like the idea of doing the 2 nights because then you have that one night to just go at your own pace.
You're right. And then the kids will be able to do that because the kids can't go on the RIP tour.
Yeah, and the RIP tour, while it's fun to see all the houses, you're basically locked into their schedule. So you're basically just go. Whereas the other one, we had the time to stop and get something to eat and look around and take our time browsing. Like when you're on that RIP tour, you're just booking from place to place to place.
Yeah, you do get a stop to buy overpriced beer, but I mean, but yeah, that was fun. We were pretty. By the time we were at that Academy of Villains show, we were definitely. I was feeling a good buzz going because that must have been. We stopped. We did a couple of shots. Didn't we do some shots with our tour guide and us?
It gets hazy after. Well, I had asked In the Loop, the legend. I had submitted a question a while back, and I said, In the Loop is a theme park podcast for you guys that don't know. But they were soliciting questions for a show, and so I wrote in and I asked Legend, are haunted houses better sober or drunk? And he had the most brilliant answer, and his answer was, start off sober, end up drunk. So that's the way you do it.
That's what we did that night, I'll tell you.
I was like, man, that's a damn good answer.
And that morning after that, because wasn't that our then we had the Monday, that last day at Universal? I just remember that we were struggling in the morning to move. I think Julie and I somehow got up, and Julie was still injured. And I remember we got up and we were waiting for you guys down at the donut place, I think, right? Voodoo Donuts. And we were just sitting, Julie and I was sitting there. I was like, oh. I was like, take your time, Tim. It's okay.
The rule this year is no volleyball. That's the rule. So tell Julie she's safe.
No sports, but I'm hoping we can still get a good deal at the I thought the Hard Rock was a fun thing, and plus it came with that pass, so it's like it all balances out to be.
Well, Olivia had already told me, she said she'd be totally open to staying at the Hard Rock again. So
okay, cool.
So, we're good for that. Next up, I stumbled across this documentary on Hulu. Actually, Hulu knows what I like, so it just tells me. It puts this stuff up. But this is a documentary I'd heard about last year, and I wanted to watch. And it's come out on Hulu. It's Wrinkles the Clown. Do you know about this one, Brian?
No, but this sounds like something like some weird character from The Simpsons. I don't know.
This is a documentary about the clown, the scary clown that was, quote unquote, terrorizing Naples, Florida. And
I didn't know we had a name. Okay.
Yeah, his name was Wrinkles, and you guys will probably recognize him when you see him. He's like a wrinkly clown with these weird scream eyes.
I would hope he'd have wrinkles based on that name. I mean.
But so this is a documentary about him and what drove him to do this and this kind of stuff. And I don't want to give too much away because this is actually a documentary that I can't spoil because there are some surprises in it. So all I will say is go check it out on Hulu. It goes into the great clown scare that happened several years back where the people were seeing clowns in the woods and all that. And everybody thought it was a promo for it. And it wasn't. It was just people freaking out. And it goes into Wrinkles and why he did what he did. He goes, I mean, this guy actually put stickers up with his phone number and would like get parents to hire him to scare their kids. So you get into stuff like the question of, is that, they're talking to psychologists, like, is this a good thing? And I'm going, no, you don't do that. Like, as a parent, I would never use terror to discipline my children. I don't know. Some people, I don't get it. Like, the thought of doing that just freaks me out. I can't imagine. Like, I'll scare them for fun, but not like terror. This is like terrorizing a child.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not. I mean, that's not like jumping out and go boo. This is like full on terror to get them to behave. I don't agree with that at all.
No, that's not good.
So they go into that a little bit. It's kind of interesting, but yeah, it's got some surprises. So go check it out if you got Hulu. Wrinkles a Clown. It's very
I actually gotta do that because Julie likes those real those weird. I know it's not technically true crime, but like this kind of documentary, she likes these. She's fascinated, so we'll have to watch that.
She'll like this one. And then the other one I watched was Parasite, which was obviously the Best Picture winner this year at the Oscars. And we were talking about, we didn't know if it was horror related or horror adjacent. It's not really. I wouldn't even call it horror adjacent. So this is going to be a little off topic. It's no more horror than The Irishman or anything else.
Well, yeah, and Kim and Ket did this one too on their podcast. So it's like it's misleading to a lot of people, I guess, as horror adjacent.
And it sounds like a horror movie title. I get it. And there are some things about it that are a little creepy. So I can kind of see whether you get a little bit of a horror element. But this movie was amazing. It blends genres in a way I can't think of another movie that has done it so effectively. And I'm not going to give anything away here, no spoilers, but all I'm going to say is, suffice it to say, it's about a family who are basically low on the social totem pole, let's say. And they're kind of struggling day by day to get by. And they end up coming into contact with a very rich family and learning how to maybe take advantage of that situation. That's all I'll say. And there's tons of twists and turns. The performances are stellar. It's just a very unique movie that you don't. Sometimes you have to go outside of the U.S. to see movies that are. You got to go beyond your culture. You got to go beyond your typical way of thinking, the typical Hollywood formula, to see a different, fresh take on things. And this is one of those movies that kind of opens your eyes to another way of thinking. So I would highly, highly recommend it. It was definitely deserving of Best Pictures. Brilliantly directed, of course. It's a very, very fascinating movie.
Yeah, Julie and I are going to watch it sooner than later. So
yeah, you're going to like it. And I've heard that I've read that they're doing a complete black and white version that they're going to re-release. So that would be interesting too. I don't think I don't really care either one way or the other. I think it was a great movie either way. I don't know how much it'll benefit from being black and white versus color, but if you have not seen that one, I think you guys would all enjoy it. And even if you're not, even though it's not a horror movie, I would still recommend seeing it because it's such a unique film that I haven't quite seen anything like it. I was trying to come up with something to compare it to. I couldn't think of anything. That's how unique it is. So
it stumped Tim.
You stumped Tim. Yeah, it's. I love when I hit movies like that. I had never even heard of Parasite before it got nominated. And then even after it was nominated, as you could tell from our last episode, we had no clue. Still didn't have any clue what it was about.
Yeah.
So yeah, so go check that one out. And then finally, Brian's got some big news.
Yes, hopefully this will, by the time you're reading this, because at the 0 hour before this was about to go live, thank God I had Tim double check it, because I've been staring at this thing for weeks now, trying to make sure this is all accurate, and there was some issues with the certain products, but basically, hopefully by the time you're listening to this, the Civil Gore store will finally be open.
The amount of products you can buy here are just ridiculous. You can buy Civil Gore pillows and
yes, well, in case you want to just snuggle up against while you listen to the pod. Yeah, the shower curtain, of course, which we've mentioned. You can get a phone case.
You can get toddler, like baby jumpers if you want your child to have skulls and guns on it.
Yeah, that's the only reason I was like, oh, this is great. I can get my niece and nephew. And I'm like, yeah, like my brother and sister-in-law will allow them to wear a skull logo with 2 crossed rifles. But yeah, maybe we'll have to make like that's what maybe we should do. Because, I mean, this is just right now the products you'll be able to get is just our standard logo. But hopefully we'll get like some other stuff down the road. Like we'll add maybe like a Tim's Low the Pirate shirt. And maybe we'll get like a more kid-friendly logo for something.
Like
or maybe
skulls
just say
with
Civil Gore.
pacifiers or something.
Yeah. Or we could just have it literally just say Civil Gore on it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And, of course, so some of our, maybe our funny phrases over the years, we could have something.
You know what a good one would be? Remember when we posted a while back was that, we did I think we did it on Instagram, but it was our faces, but it was like cartoonized.
Oh,
in a way.
Yeah.
That one
actually,
was
you're right.
That one actually looked pretty cool. I think that would be a good one if you want our ugly faces on your shirts.
Yeah, like blended into or ugly. And yeah, no, but I mean it'll be cool. Like, but and then what we'd have to do is it's funny. Like maybe every so often we'll like release like a limited edition shirt that'll only be up for a certain time or something. And kind of stuff. We'll do some fun stuff. So hopefully, yeah. So by the time you're listening to this, you should be able to go on. And of course, we'll announce it on social media. Either way, if there is a problem and we can't get it up by that point, that didn't sound good. We can't get the site active by that point.
We'll let you know.
We will let you know. But hopefully. You'll be able to get your Civil Gore shower curtain in time for the spring showering season.
And any money made off the store is going directly back into the podcast. It's just going to offset hosting fees and that kind of stuff. So we're not looking to be millionaires off of this. We're just trying to offset our hosting cost.
No, in fact, I didn't even literally behind the scenes here. I just set default pricing. I'm not. We're not trying to gouge anybody. We're not trying to we're definitely not trying to make a major profit off of it. In fact, if we can get we have pretty modest hosting fees and website fees for the month, which still the website is still on its way. So, but that we still pay for the domain and stuff. So if we can break even on that for the year would be a goal. Which
just breaking even would be amazing. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So we could do that because I know we haven't gone to Patreon yet because we're not there yet, but hopefully down the road maybe we'll do some cool Patreon tiers or something. But right now I think our store will be up and running pretty soon. So
yeah, once we get into the new house, I'm thinking that's probably gonna be like a year from now. I might consider going into Patreon where we kind of have a more formalized, and I can be. Right now it's just too in flux. I don't want to get into where you're having to send out rewards and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it'll be hard.
Once I'm stable, I think that would be more doable where we could, you could have like prize packs and stuff like Coaster Radio does and that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's I know because we sent out the ones for the horror challenge and stuff, but we'd like to do that on the more regular. So
yeah. All right, so let's get to our movie of the week. This is Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. This was from 2012. Directed by Timur. That's a new nickname for me. Timur.
Yeah.
Timur.
Timur.
Bek Mambatov. Or Timur from Costa Radio. Timur Bek Mambatov. I guess. I don't know. I'm struggling.
No.
I'm struggling. Okay, so let's get to the actual actors here. We have Benjamin Walker as Abraham Lincoln, or as I like to call him, young Liam Neeson.
Oh my God! Did he ever?
Could he not play the young Liam Neeson in like a Liam Neeson?
Totally could play the Liam Neeson biopic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dominic Cooper as Henry Sturgis, Anthony Mackie as Will Johnson, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Mary Todd Lincoln, Rufus Sewell as Adam, Martin Sokus as Jack Bartz, Jimmy Simpson as Joshua Speed, Joseph Mall as Thomas Lincoln, Robin McLeavy as Nancy Lincoln, Aaron Wasson as Vadorna, John Rothman as Jefferson Davis, Cameron Brown as Willie Lincoln, Frank Brennan as Senator Jeb Nolan, and Alan Tudyk as Stephen A. Douglas.
Which was technically uncredited, but I felt I had to include him because I'm a big Alan Tudyk fan.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States, discovers vampires are planning to take over the United States. He makes it his mission to eliminate them. And Brian, so I actually read this novel before the movie came out.
Oh, okay.
And if you remember back in that day when this came out, there was this big wave of mixing historical literature with supernatural. So you had, I think it all kicked off with Pride and Prejudice versus Zombies was the first one that came out.
Right, yeah.
And there were several follow-ups to that. And then that started kind of to spawn this whole thing of these historical mixtures of supernatural stuff. It was a fad for a little while in that mid 2000 or mid whatever you call it 2010s, late 2000s up to early 2010s. And so I read the book. I actually really enjoyed the book. I love historical fiction. I read a lot of historical fiction, or at least I used to. I used to read stuff like The Alienist by Caleb Carr. One of my favorite books of all time, The List of Seven by Mark Frost.
Is that like the Mark Frost, like from Twin Peaks?
Yes,
Mark Frost?
yes. You need to read that book, The List of Seven. It's phenomenal. And it's supernatural. It's got like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's in it. It's got all these like historical figures that enter in. It's fantastic.
Neat.
Yeah, so I used to read all that kind of stuff. I loved those books that mixed history and historical figures in with mysteries, and usually they took place in Victorian England. There's a whole genre of this stuff where Edgar Allan Poe is recruited to solve a mystery. Or there was a whole series where Houdini. It was Houdini, and he was a crime fighter, and he would help solve these mysteries. I absolutely love him. So this was kind of way in my ballpark when this came out, and I remember really, really enjoying the book. So I was pretty excited when the movie came out. Now, I watched the movie once when it first came out. I did not go see it in the theater. I believe I saw this on DVD.
I didn't even realize it was in the theater at one point. So
yeah, I ended up watching it on DVD when it first came out. Honestly, it was rather forgettable for me when I first watched it. Maybe because it was too close to the time I had read the book, and it does make some pretty serious departures from the book. I will have to say, though, given that span of time, this is only the second time I've seen it. Since that first time, I actually really, really enjoyed it much more the second time around. So maybe that distance from the book is what helped me there. But I'm interested to see your thoughts on this one, Brian, because it does not play out like you think it will.
No, I see. And that's one of the biggest things I expected based on. I remember the poster, the box art for it, and just you hear it, you chuckle, Abraham Lincoln vampire hunt. You're like, what a funny thing,
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming this literally was going to be like an over the top horror comedy,
like a Santa's sleigh. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. And I'm like. And I didn't see Pride and Prejudice Zombies, so I don't know what that was like. But I almost expected it like a Shaun of the Dead kind of a thing, or something like that. And boy, was I wrong, because first of all, I'll just the spoiler alert here. I absolutely loved it. I was like, it instantly jumped up to one of my like favorite movies I've seen in a while, like horror wise, and it was so much fun. And what's amazing is it's like there was no, and at first I like when I was watching, I'm like, Julie's like, what are you watching? I'm like, it's some low budget movie, and I'm like, and it is not low budget, at all. No. In fact, it plays out like a serious historical epic, like you would like something like that you would go out and see, like if it was like just a movie about Lincoln. I mean, I'm not comparing it to Spielberg's Lincoln. Okay, don't send things at me saying, "What are you talking?" No, I'm not. But what I thought was so great about it is it didn't. Like, how we always, okay, perfect example, but a good analogy here is, how we always say, if you're going to do a horror comedy, make sure it's balanced out. Just as much horror as it is comedy, so it blends well. Well, this, I think they went into that strategy, but let's make an historical epic, but also let's make it a horror movie. And they balanced it out perfectly. Like, literally, you follow, like, from a young Abe Lincoln through... spoiler if you haven't seen it or know anything about history.
Yeah, I figured I would just give. Yeah, I figured this one would probably give spoilers because it is.
Yeah, I mean this movie's old enough.
Yeah, it's old enough.
Yeah, and it basically carries through his whole life up until right before he's like heading on out to the Ford Theater. So but the thing is, it doesn't, like, while it obviously adds the historical fiction element of vampires, it follows along with the historical timeline, and it's like, which is it's amazing. And to the fact that the whole battle of Gettysburg, like Jefferson Davis is literally making deals with the vampires.
Well,
And I'm like, and it's like some of, I don't claim to be an epic historian here. So like, to me, I'm sure a real historian say, well, this fact didn't happen, but I will say it's like, they've got some of the details. Like, have you ever looked at a picture of Abe Lincoln and then a picture of Jefferson Davis, how similar they look alike? They managed to even get that right in the movie.
Yeah.
Where the guy that played Jefferson Davis for the one scene he was in looks very much like the actor they got to play Lincoln. So there was that comparison, and just how they had like the real life events going on, and they managed to just put in the whole vampire element to it, to where it was, dare I say, believable. It's like, and I just thought that was fascinating, and it was so exciting. And the thing that shocked me is that there were some incredible sequences that blew away some other so-called big budget blockbusters. Like that scene with the horses, the stampede, was crazy.
There was a scene where a vampire literally swings a horse by the legs, and throws it at Abraham Lincoln. Like, well, how could you not like that? How could you not love that?
You cannot not like this. It was incredible, and the whole sequence at the end on the train. I mean, it's like, and it's just like the best thing I have to say is like, Tim and I always are a big fan of this. We've said this ad nauseum here, but I love when people, no matter what movie they're in, they give all in as if it's like their Academy Award winning performance, and everyone in this was playing this as straight and as epic as you could have played it.
Yeah, well, this really is not a comedy, as much as the
not at
title
all.
is funny. There is no comedy in this movie. There's a comedy that comes from the premise,
right?
The ridiculousness kind of the premise, but there's no comedy in the movie itself. It never plays things for laughs. There's never a time where Lincoln's going 407 axes. Kill choppers. I don't know. That was a bad, but example.
Or no, like maybe like, let me ask you a question.
I can tell no lie. You're dead meat. There's none of that.
Yeah, I was hoping for Gore in 7 years ago, just so we could have that drop for the podcast, but he did not do that.
Yeah, I don't know. Tell a lie. That was George Washington, wasn't it? I don't even know my president.
The tell a lie was George Washington. Yeah,
I'm terrible.
Okay.
Well, it was Honest Abe, though. That's where I was getting it from. That's where I was going.
Yes,
so we had
Honest Abe. And that was funny where they played on that a lot with the joke, his nickname Honest Abe, where she was like, you haven't been honest with me, and there's little jabs like that are kind of like tongue in cheek little chuckles, for those who know.
But there's
history.
but it's not funny in that it's not a comedy that it addresses slavery. I mean, there's some real scenes of like slave abuse in here. There's it wrestles with issues of slavery. It wrestles with his the division of the country. I mean, it wrestles with some of the real life stuff that Lincoln was wrestling with. Obviously, not in the same serious tones as like Spielberg's thing, of course not. This is all very superficial level. I'm not trying to say it's making some big statement because it is a movie. First and foremost,
right? That's why I was like trying to say like that earlier. I'm like, well, don't come at us and say, well, how can you compare Steven Spielberg's masterpiece?
It's a very high
movie.
Level, obviously high level history lesson. But because it's first and foremost a vampire movie. But the very fact that they made this movie and played it that straight was amazing. And I'll say, going into this, Brian, I was not really looking forward to this one because I remembered seeing it when I first saw it, didn't find it that memorable, and I was like, okay, it'll be okay. But I completely enjoyed this from beginning to end. I just I'd forgotten all these scenes. I'd forgotten the stampede. I'd forgotten the epic train battle at the end. There's some fantastic action sequences in here, and I'd forgotten how straight the movie plays with the premise. I mean, this is not a cheap movie. Like Brian said, this is a $69 million movie, which is not crazy, but still, that's a good chunk of change for a...
No, and I'll tell you, they had, whatever they did, they spent every dollar of that 69 million wisely, because there were no bad effects. No. There were no cheap looking scenes. I mean, granted, I will say, if there's a criticism, some of the scenery maybe looked a little... Maybe like it was like taken out of a theme park or like one of those themed entertainment.
Yeah, and there's some. Like, I mean, some of the vampire CGI was a little. I mean, yeah, it was a little. I don't even want to say hokey because that's too strong a word. It has some of the same. You guys saw back in the day, but this is mid 2000s. You would see kind of this overuse of CGI sometimes with like vampires and stuff. There's a little bit of that. It's not bad. Like, if you want to see bad, go watch what was that Will Smith movie?
I am Legend.
Yeah, I Am Legend. Like, that's bad CGI. That's just straight up bad CGI. Yeah, it's not that bad, but it's if you wanted to really nitpick, you could say, the vampires are a little CGI here and there, but man, I've seen much, much worse in much bigger budget movies. So.
Oh yeah, and in this, and like especially when it excelled, were in the scenes that it counted, like that train sequence at the end and that stampede sequence. I mean, you want to marquee your film on how to do like an action sequence. I mean, those two got to be right up there. I mean, I've seen some quote unquote blockbuster action movies where I have not been as riveted as in those two scenes. I mean,
and I will have to say, I give some props for Benjamin Walker's axe play and his axe handling, because there's some really cool axe maneuvers in this movie. They're just
he badass. Did, and he trained for that. He had to train.
Yeah, it was so cool. That. It was so cool.
And funny you brought him up, because I wanted to bring him up because the performance in this, as we said earlier, were like, 100% put in. But what I loved about him is he was great as Lincoln, as both historical and historical fiction versions. Like, he was great when he had to play Lincoln as the Lincoln that we know, but also awesome as the Lincoln we didn't know,
Yeah.
And I thought that was really big task to play, because like, how do you sit there, as an actor, right, going in and now you're playing this historical legendary figure that everybody knows, and you're playing him as now hunting vampires. It's like how do you play that so well, and then next thing you know, he's on the street campaigning for presidency.
And that's hard it's really hard to play Lincoln because he's such a unique looking individual. I mean, I can't think of anybody who's ever even looked close to what Lincoln looked like. But if you see how many times Lincoln's been portrayed badly. I mean, imagine any commercial around President's Day. Speaking of President's Day, that some guy dressed up as Lincoln selling mattresses or something. It just looks so bad, and this could have been the same way. But to his credit, as you watch Benjamin Walker, like, quote unquote, grow up from being like a young man Lincoln all the way to his old man days, like, you really start believing that he is who you buy into the fact that he's Lincoln. Like, I never got the feeling that he was like some guy in a pasted on beard and a bad top hat. Yeah. I really felt like, I bought into the whole story. And I think it was great that they started off with, I mean, if you would just get thrown this title at me at a pitch meeting, I would have thought you'd jump right in with Lincoln as president and somehow becomes a vampire hunter. And I think it was very clever in both the book and the movie, obviously following the book, that they started off with him young. So you can kind of buy into the fact that he just happened to get into the presidency after he had become this established vampire hunter.
Yeah, no, and that's what I loved. It's like you really got brought on in this journey, and that's what I say. They fit all that vampire stuff in so well, and it almost to the point where I could buy it.
Yeah,
I bought in.
And
but
the vampires.
I don't want to say the twist, by the way, because there are some twists in this movie, which we won't spoil for those who haven't seen it. But there's some great twists in it. So, even as a story, this works great if you didn't know about anything that happens.
Yeah, that's true. And I was going to say that the vampires are actually pretty scary in this one. These are not the, well, I guess they are kind of the romanticized vampires in a way because they're very.
I think it's like a mix. I think they did a good mix of it.
Yeah,
actually.
like they're very formal out in public and that kind of thing, and very reserved and beautiful and all that kind of stuff. But then they could get really vicious on the turn of a hat or turn of a dime or maybe a Lincoln penny. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but they can switch that. They can flip that switch and really become pretty terrifying. So there was some great, I thought there were some great horror sequences in here too. Like the vampires actually felt dangerous.
Oh no, they did. And there were moments where, they would, there was that whole there's that whole sequence with the, where he basically had to draw Lincoln out to go, and they use his friend as bait kind of stuff. And that sequence where they had the whole different, looked like it was a party, but they were really just sacrificing the slaves in it. Mm-hmm. It was like, but it like, it was like, looked like it was this big fanciful scene. And then it like just turned into this, then you like quickly switched to the reality of it. And it was all like all the fancy stuff went away and it was showed what was actually going on. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. And, the thing you brought up with the, how they really, with the struggle, how there was that theme throughout of how, while, like there was just everyone, they're basically saying, oh, everyone's kind of shackled or something. They were saying, right? Yeah. What was the line that it was like, said?
Until every man is free, we are all slaves.
Right. Yeah. So they were really pushing that. So it was like, there was a lot of like, there was actually a good message in this movie on top of it. It's like, so, I mean, they did a great job of pulling a lot of stuff into a movie that, like you said, by title alone is laughable. But who would have thought that such a good movie is become of it? And this is one that I'm like going to pretty much instantly add to my collection. I want to buy this on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And I have to own this in my collection. I actually want to watch it again. And it's oh my God. I can't recommend this one higher. This was such a surprise to me. And I love when I discover a movie. And like, remember how we were toying with the idea of the Civil Gore Awards doing it? Yeah. And we said like, we could even throw a category in of a best surprise, like movie. Right now, this is the top of my list for movies I've discovered this year that I had never just seen before, but now like absolutely love.
Yeah, this one's one you need to revisit because, like I said, this was a revisit for me after not having seen it since 2012, and I absolutely loved it this time around. So, and it's worth saying this movie bombed at the box office. So
it did, yeah.
$69 million budget estimated. Opening weekend was $16 million. I think the gross was $37 million and some change.
Yeah.
So it didn't.
It made its money back over worldwide gross, at least.
Yeah. But, it made 116 worldwide. It's not crazy, but it did make its money back. But U.S. it bombed. And, I can see why. I mean, it's a kind of a ridiculous premise. I mean, most people probably dismissed it as this stupid horror comedy that they weren't going to go see. And maybe I will defend this movie up and down. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, I will too. I will 100% defend this, and I will tell everyone that will listen to watch this movie because they are missing out on a gem. I hope this is one of these movies that now, because of us, we start spreading the word and people start watching, listening to it, listening to people tell us about it, tell people about it, and it really spreads out and it has this cult resurgence.
Yeah, it deserves to be a cult movie. It really does.
Yes,
I guess we'll go into some of the trivia here. There's some really good trivia in this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of skip through some of these. But Benjamin, like you mentioned, Benjamin Walker trained to do a lot of his own stunt work with the axe, which is really impressive. I mean, there's some twirling and just cool axe stuff in here that you've probably never seen because how many people use an axe as their primary weapon other than maybe Jack Torrance
or Victor Crowley. But
this one was shipped to the cinema with codename Bloody Honest. That's a good one.
Gotta love that.
This one was interesting. The screenplay for this film was featured in the 2010 Blacklist, which is a list of the most liked unmade scripts of the year. So, I mean, even people back then were recognizing that the script was really, really solid. This one was really interesting. Tom Hardy was approached for the title role of Lincoln, but had to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts with The Dark Knight Rises. So Bane could have been, could have been Lincoln.
Well, that's blessing in disguise because I can't think of anyone I can, other than Liam Neeson, possibly now. Because
it sounds like they went through a whole gamut of people. They considered Eric Bana, Timothy Olyphant, Adrian Brody, Josh.
All right, I don't
Lucas.
see that one at
No.
all. Adrian Brody, sorry.
Josh Lucas, James Darcy, Rob Hubel, and Oliver Jackson Cohen were all considered to play the role. Timothy Olyphant would have been interesting. I love him.
Yes, he was fun, but I still see him as Timothy Olyphant. That's the problem.
Yeah.
He's like one of those people that you see him as what he is.
And he just doesn't have the facial structure for Lincoln either.
No.
Benjamin Walker previously appeared in 2010 in a stage production called Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson. In both that play and this film, he played a title character who was a fantasy version of a real-life American president.
Very interesting niche he's building himself here.
Yeah. I'm going to skip to some of these I find more interesting. Both Anthony Mackie and Dominic Cooper are part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Cooper played the younger version of Howard Stark in Captain America: The First Avenger,
right.
which I'd forgotten about. And Mackie plays the character of Sam Wilson / Falcon, who's the partner of Captain America in Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah, by the way, and Anthony Mackie, he's always been one of my favorite actors, and it's kind of funny because there's actually a slight connection now we have to him because his brother is Calvin Mackie is as a speaker, and he goes around, and actually Julie was his liaison when he came to Hofstra for something they had. So we actually have two signed books from Calvin Mackie. So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool, yeah.
At the time of this film's release, Benjamin Walker was married to Mamie Gummer, daughter of Meryl Streep. And Streep presented the Best Actor award to Daniel Day-Lewis for playing Lincoln in the same year. So I didn't realize that Lincoln came out this close to this one. The Spielberg Lincoln, that is, which is a great movie. This one goes into, there's another trivia point here. It goes into the comparison between the book and the movie, which I'm not going to go into because it's pretty involved, but it's interesting. So if you want to go out to IMDb and read the differences between the two, because it's really, really cool. Having not read the book in a while, it kind of refreshed my memory of some of the differences.
I kind of want to buy the book now, but if you said it's so different, I'm like, I don't want it to like...
But it's still good, though. It's still really, really good.
Oh, okay. So maybe I'll still get it.
There's a sequel novel named The Last American Vampire published in 2015, which I'm going to have to track down now. The novel follows Henry Sturgis on his continued fight against vampires after 1865. And I'm not going to give this last one because it's kind of a big spoiler. And then at the end of the film, there is a reference to Lincoln says goodbye to Henry, and his wife Mary calls him, saying they'll be late for the theater, of course referring to the Ford Theater, where Lincoln would be assassinated. So there's some allusion at the end of the movie that his vampire hunting days are going to come to an end. And not by
now part of me was expecting them to actually show that sequence as going to be one of the vampires actually doing it, playing like, but and twisting that whole, historical fact. But I'm kind of glad they left it the way it did. Because at the end, it was kind of more of like a, like you kind of wanted it. I think tying it back to the actual history at that point was smart to end on that note.
That almost would have been like too over the top. Like that would have been like
right.
Too
and
much.
That's a better way of. That's kind of more what I was trying to describe. Yeah.
Because you kind of want to feel like you said, you kind of want to feel like maybe this could have really happened. Like,
I tell you, they do a good job making you like.
Maybe he really was a vampire hunter.
Yeah, I could see that now.
All right, so what do we have the beer pairing for Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
Okay, I think this one was a great one, and I even like, especially when I get into the detail of it. So it's Abe's Ale, right? Okay. Real shocker there, and it's from a Rolling Meadows Farm Brewery in Cantrell, Illinois. It's 8.7%. So it's pretty strong. And listen to this description. It's Abe's Ale is our maple syrup brown ale. It throws a wrench in the works of bland brown ale with its high ABV, which serves to balance and almost disappear the sweet from the maple syrup. That's just good. But this is the best. On the can, literally, I took this off word for word from the pictured can. It says, celebrating that fourscoring, Civil Warring, beard growing, emancipating, proclamating, son of Springfield, Illinois. That's just like something Randy Ray Rayford would say.
But that's so great.
It?
It fits in with the whole movie. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. But I love it. It's like that's something totally like something. Like, if we were to make a version of that beer, we just add fourscore and Civil Gore and Civil War. Or Civil Gore and instead of Civil War and beard growing, emancipating, proclamating, son of Springfield, Illinois. But yeah, I love that one. So I got to track that beer down just to have that can.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to our triple threat. Last week we got some correct answers this week, Brian.
Yeah,
quite a few,
I think it was Johnny, Cody, David got that with this, right?
Yeah.
Grant did on Facebook.
Yeah,
too.
there was a bunch
we
of
got
them.
a lot of answers on this one.
So the answer was Samara Weaving. So clue number 1, I have played characters who have been a victim and someone who performs evil rituals. So in The Babysitter, as you remember, Samara played B, the babysitter, who along with her friends perform a satanic ritual. And then in Ready or Not, Samara plays Grace, who is caught up in a life or death version of hide and seek, in which if she loses, she'll be a sacrifice to an evil ritual to ensure her new husband's family's survival. Clue number 2, my uncle once played a famous villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Her uncle was, of course, Hugo Weaving, who played Red Skull in Captain America: The First Avenger.
And funny, a fact of that movie you watched, that one, what was it, Cut and
Run, yeah.
Cut and Run. They said in the trivia, too, that there's a rumor that Hugo Weaving had an uncredited small role in that movie.
Oh, really?
Funny.
That's good.
That tied in, yeah. I just saw it in the trivia when we were looking
If you
at
watch it, you'll have to look for him.
Yeah.
Then clue number 3, I'll be featured in an upcoming film where I play the daughter of a very well-known time traveler. And, of course, we're referring to Bill and Ted Face the Music. Samara is playing Thea Preston, daughter of the most excellent time traveler, Bill Preston. And I cannot wait for that movie to come out.
Oh,
it's going to be so much fun.
I cannot wait.
All right, so this week we are looking for an actor or actress. So listen closely. This is
I think this one might be tricky.
This could be tricky.
Probably like a 7 or 8.
Yeah,
I think.
So we gave you an easy one last week. This one could be a little challenging, but if you pay attention, you may get it. So clue number 1, my real life fear of something must have made one of my recent roles seem very realistic. My real life fear of this thing must have made one of my recent roles seem very realistic. Clue number 2, I can play 5 musical instruments. Clue number 3, in my most famous role, I once dressed up as a character from a famous movie franchise that I will soon be an official part of. That's probably your best clue right there.
Yeah.
So
that's the one. It's usually that third clue I try and leave as a more obvious one, but it is tricky because that could be a lot of things.
Yeah, really.
So you kind of have to kind of be heading somewhere to have that like third one clue. But I think if you're kind of on the right track, that one pretty much cements it.
Yeah,
basically.
All right, Brian. So let's get to our Zubmondo for the week.
Okay, so today I have an interesting one, Tim.
All right.
It's not a gross one. Not even really a silly one per se. I think it's just a good one. Are you ready, Tim?
I'm ready.
It says, would you and it kind of does fit into the podcast. I will say it's some level.
Okay.
A little bit. But anyway, it says, would you rather have a Texas accent and live in New York City or have a New York accent and live in Texas?
Oh, there's no question about that one.
What would you be, Tim?
Okay, now this is going to open some interesting lines of discussion. So,
okay.
I would personally rather have a Texas accent and live in New York City, because, and now I'm going by my visit up there. I never felt like my accent was. I never felt like anybody treated me different because of my accent in New York City. Like, I thought everybody was super cool up there. Everybody was nice. I never had any issues. Now, I will say, living in the South, I have seen a lot of prejudice against New York accents down here in the South.
I was part of one, remember?
Yes.
Thanks to Aunt Sue.
Yeah. And Brian's had
I got
first-hand
ostracized.
experience. Yeah. So now I don't know. Maybe you have different stories and you can say that there's been some discrimination against Southern people up there. But I know for a fact the South still resents the Civil War in a lot of ways. And if you go down south, and I guess you count Texas as South. I mean, it's about as South as you can
well,
get.
It's
not really Civil
gotta
War-ish,
be, yeah.
but
it's not, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, and I would much rather live in New York than Texas. I'd probably go ahead and tell you that. So yeah, I'm gonna go with I'd rather have a Southern accent in New York than New York down here, because I would never want to live in Texas. No offense to Texans. I really, really want to visit Texas. Actually, I think there's some really cool cities I want to go to.
Oh yeah, Austin is amazing.
Yeah, I would love to go to
Yeah,
Austin.
is-
I'd love to visit. I'd love to visit any place down there in Texas. I have nothing against the state per se. I just think I would, having lived on the East Coast, I would want to stay on the East Coast.
So now, yeah, no, so sort of the same reason why I'm kind of gonna go with your thing, which is kind of funny because I already have the New York accent, muddled as it may be now a little bit from living in California and just in general. But so here's my thing though. So it's I too don't think I'd want, as much as I love to visit Texas, I don't think I'd want to live there. But also living in other places with a New York accent. When I lived in California, people were fascinated by my New York accent. So I know what it's like to have an accent that's from a different place, and I think it's it's kind of like it's a gimmick at some level where people loved, like they used to make me always say coffee all the time because they like to say. But see now and this is not to in any way insult anyone from Texas, because one of our good friends is from Houston, Adam Beard, of course. Yeah. And I've been to Texas a couple of times. I've enjoyed everything there, but I just think that to them there, it wouldn't even I don't think they'd even care really. It wouldn't stand out. However, I mean, one of the hardest things is to start a conversation, right?
Right.
I think in Texas, there's so many people that come from out of state to visit it anyway. Same with New York. But still the same way. It's like, I don't think, you go to Texas with a New York accent. I think they're just, Texas has such a specific accent and a way they speak that anyone with an accent that's not the Texas accent is going to be like, oh, okay, you're not from here kind of thing. Yeah. But if you go into New York with a Texas accent, New Yorkers are just fascinated with things, and that's automatically a conversation starter. I'd much rather end up with our buddy Matt from Yorkshire, his accent I've seen soothe the meanest of people. He managed to soothe our evil neighbor back in when we lived in the house, where we thought that was impossible, and he somehow won her over with one phrase. And it was hilarious. So, but I think so. I think I'd go with yours though, with have a Texas accent and live in New York City, because I think there's again there's so many accents in there, but I think New Yorkers would just get more fascination out of a Texas accent than Texans would get out of a New York accent.
And I don't know. I'm not applying this to Texas because it's probably not the same in Texas. I know in North Carolina, because you have so many Northerners moving down here to get away from the cold. And
you're tired of it.
And there's there's a resentment among people that it's one of those things. People generalize, obviously. I mean, anybody I've ever known that moved down here from north has been absolutely spectacular. But there are bad apples that move down here and complain about everything, as you would I'm sure there's people from down here that move up north and complain about everything. But there is a certain level of resentment. You'll see bumper stickers from time to time that say, if you don't like how we do it down here, move back up where you came from. I mean, you see bumper stickers and stuff like that.
Oh my God, I want that. I want that bumper sticker.
I'm serious.
But I want it just because it'd be funny from here, because move up where you came from. That's Canada? Am I going to be telling people from Canada or Maine?
I'm serious. They have that stuff. Stuff like Yankee go home. I mean, there's stuff like that down here still. People are still pissed off about Civil War down here in North Carolina. I'm not lying. It seems ridiculous in this day and age.
Well, what was that movie we saw, right? The 2001 Maniacs or whatever?
That's serious. You go in the rural part and you come into some rural part of North Carolina with a New York accent, and there's already going to be a prejudice against you. Guaranteed.
I didn't get that though. Thank God. When Julie and I were down there, oh my God, everyone was the nicest people. I mean, obviously the ones I knew, like you and Kevin, but I mean, overall though, everyone in town we met in Wilmington. I mean, unless Wilmington is just I keep singing the praises.
The thing is,
Tim has always been saying,
and you're hitting Wilmington's like a beach town. Wilmington is a lot more progressive and liberal than a lot of the other parts of the state. It's almost like an island to itself. So you wouldn't see as much of that here as you would if you went to some very rural town outside of Wilmington. You'd probably have a whole different picture. I'm not saying that people would automatically be mean to you. I'm saying there's some people that would.
Well, I'm delightful. I don't think
anybody would be mean to
outright
Brian.
mean to me right off the bat. No, but
not to Brian. They wouldn't be mean to Brian because Brian's charming. But there is.
I do try. It is
interesting. I read a book called what was it called? It was called Ghost in the Attic, I think it was called Ghost in the Attic or Confederates in the Attic. Might have been one or the other. I can't remember. And I can't remember who wrote it. I'm sorry. This has been years ago. But it was literally about the resentment that people in the South still have over the Civil War. And it was really fascinating read. It was a nonfiction, obviously. And this author went around and interviewed people and talked about how there was this underlying resentment still. I mean, hundreds of years later, about 150 years later, of losing the Civil War. It's really, really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, just to summarize, they give you know how they give those little facts. These are like some random facts. It's kind of funny. So it says in 1997, the ratio of New Yorkers bitten by rats to the number bitten by other New Yorkers was 1 to 7.
That's pretty funny. I can believe it.
Yeah, I could too. It says that low-down scoundrel deserves to be kicked to death by a jackass, and I'm just the one to do it. And that was by a unnamed congressional candidate in Texas.
Nice.
And then there are 2 more facts, actually. This one's like very fact-laden here. It says, Dallas has more tanning salons than any other city in the U.S. I find that very odd, but I don't know how
right.
that
If you can't get a suntan in Texas,
right?
I mean,
yeah.
Really, jeez.
Yeah, and then the final one is it says there were 240 pedestrian fatalities in New York City in 1994. I don't know why they got that year. Maybe that's when this book came out.
That's some random, that's some very random. That was a good discussion starter, though. I mean, that was very interesting.
Yeah, I thought, which kind of played into the whole fact, that it's like, I think like you would that's what I was saying is like Sparks have more of a conversation of having a Texas accent in New York than a New York accent in Texas.
Yeah,
just because New Yorkers are much more nosier too. They want to know where you're from.
That's why I kind of like the Zalmanos, because they give us a chance to do like a little bit of an off-topic insight into our lives type thing,
without doing a whole episode and boring people.
Yeah, which.
Oh, and we should say a very special thank you to Cody, who actually cataloged all our Zalmandos in a nice spreadsheet. So hopefully we won't ever repeat again. And if we do, that's completely on us, and we're total dopes because she did an amazing job. So thank you again, Cody.
Intern Cody came through again, so that was awesome.
Oh my God, doesn't she always? Yeah. She always comes through with all this great stuff.
All right, guys. So next week, I don't know what we're doing yet.
We have the movie.
We do? Okay.
It is listed. It's 13-13-13.
What?
Is the movie.
Okay. All right. Well, see, Brian surprised me. You heard it here, my live reaction. I have no clue what that is.
So, yeah, well, I could tell you what it's about.
No, I'm going to keep it a surprise.
Quick, you get a little preview? You don't want a little preview?
Go ahead.
Why I picked it?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so 13-13-13 basically is a movie about, it says for millennia, I'll give you the little synopsis here. It's about leap year. So our next episode is going to fall right on the leap year weekend.
Oh.
So that's kind of the basis of this a little bit, based on the ancient Mayan calendar. So I tried to find literally a leap year movie that wasn't that romantic comedy, and this came up. So that's what we're going to watch. It's so if you guys want to watch it and stay long, it's on Prime, which is good. And it's called 13-13-13, with slashes in the middle of it.
That's awesome.
So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it doesn't have anyone really I know in it, but it does have an interesting actor named Bill Voorhees in it, so there's a little horror.
A little horror connection.
A connection for it. But yeah, so I don't know, it seemed good. I mean, it did not get good ratings, so it could be a really fun discussion.
Well.
But yeah, so
we've done a lot of movies that we really like, so I'm not opposed to doing one we don't like. Just to generate some discussion.
But we can't have all great ones. I mean, gotta have some duds in there.
All right, guys. So
we're looking at you. No,
well, so guys, be sure to keep checking us out on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those, and drop us a line at civilgorepodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions, or you want to suggest a film for us to cover, or have any suggestions or criticisms of the show. Hopefully suggestions more than criticisms, but we'll take both. Yes. We're not picky.
And you know what I wanted to look into, and guys, let us know if you think this will be something fun. So I was thinking I got to look into the legal things of this. I'm wondering if I can, along with when we tweet out our trivia things, which I started doing again after Cody's request. Also, I'm wondering if we if it's okay to tweet out the Zalmandos, because it is coming from a book. but it's not like we're making money off it or anything. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that might be interesting discussion if we tweet out our weekly Zamando for our listeners to answer too, to see what they would.
Well,
say.
if we don't want to skirt the copyright issue, we could just make up our own Zamandos. For that matter,
That's
we could make
true,
horror
yes.
themed ones. Ooh, we may do that.
Yeah, and we could call it Blobmondo.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll
something,
call it something. But let's do that. We'll make up some horror ones because I've already got some in mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so start a file and we'll start collecting them. Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll begin that. Once we get a nice list of them, we'll start doing our own horror Zamandos for you.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, guys. So
good idea, Tim.
All right, so we'll see you guys back here next week. Remember, honor your presidents because they fought vampires for you.
Yes, and for Gore and 7 years ago. I had to say that because he knows.